You know Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis in the industry is known as the guy who's always in mocap, the guy that did Gollum. In 2012, after his work on the first Hobbit movie, Serkis was announced to be developing an adaptation of George Orwell's Animal Farm. This sounds interesting. Serkis just founded a new studio, the Imaginarium, which focuses on motion capture, and Serkis was apparently inspired by his work on the Planet of the Apes films to create something that's centered around animals. And the social messaging of Orwell's novella might be the perfect thing to kickstart this emerging studio. And then, about 14 years later, this is what we get.
This is the sound of freedom.
Thanks, Napoleon.
Excuse me.
Thanks, Napoleon.
It's John Pork. Sorry, I've just got to take it. It's John Pork.
Animal Farm. Animal Farm is a very famous book. The book itself is an amazing piece of political commentary. It's a book that you may have studied at school. It's very much 12-year-olds' introduction to politics. And if you are unaware, the book is a short story about animals overthrowing a neglectful farmer. The animals then take over the farm under new revolutionary rules that were passed down to them from the oldest pig on the farm. Rules like whatever goes upon two legs is an enemy, no animal shall drink alcohol, all animals are equal, etc, etc. Slowly but surely, new leaders rise amongst the farm animals. After one pig is exiled from the farm, the other more domineering pig takes control, slowly changes the rules to suit his own needs, and before we know it, the pigs have become the ruling class of the farm, and the other animals are no longer able to distinguish between pig and human. And any smart viewers out there who remember their lessons from school might remember that at a glance this book seems like a fun little story about the revolution of farm animals trying to make it on their own, but actually it's a massive allegory that George Orwell designed, an allegory for the Soviet Union and Stalin. This new film though, it's what I said before, it's the revolution of some farm animals trying to make it on their own. So I'm going to start off by talking about the film, why it's bad, why it's hard to adapt Orwell for a family audience, and then I'm going to talk to you about how this happened. And to refresh my memory, I did in fact read the book. Everyone applauded me for reading a book. This book that I have is actually, I think, the copy that I might have stolen from my school when I was a teenager. If there's any teachers watching this so you didn't hear that. Now, in this film, the first departure away from the original source material is the addition of a new character. A little goody two-shoes pig called Lucky, played by Dustin from Stranger Things.
There ain't no holding us back.
Oh yeah, during the whole initial revolt in the film, there's this horrible original song that's just like, Old MacDonald had a farm, had a farm, had a farm.
Old MacDonald had a farm, had a farm, had a farm.
For every element of this film that I talk about, I could very easily say things like, this is Orwell's nightmare, this is 1984, Orwell was rolling in his grave, how did the Orwell estate approve this? And instead of saying that like 30 million times, I'm just going to throw up this graphic, just so you understand what I mean. I understand the need for this kind of character, you know, it's an audience surrogate for all the little kids watching. I don't think that there's actually any little kids watching this, more on that later. In the original book, we see the pig characters go through this kind of power corruption. They slowly become the ruling class. We just observe them. We don't have access to their thoughts. We don't know what they're feeling. We see them become corrupt through other characters' point of view. They are behind closed doors and we only really hear propaganda. But in this, with a little pig on the inside, it kind of just becomes, guys, are you sure that we should be doing this? I think this is against the rules.
Doesn't that violate the 4 legs good, 2 legs bad rule?
It cheapens the structure of the entire book, basically. It insists upon itself, Lois. So the main protagonist is a little pig who doesn't want to break the rules, and that essentially means that a lot of the film just becomes like an anti-bullying, anti-peer pressure PSA, with the main antagonist of this film, Napoleon, basically being this kind of big brother, manipulative / kind of frat bro energy, and he's played by Seth Rogen as well. And I say that he's a frat bro because they literally have the little pig being peer pressured into drinking alcohol out of a red cup at a house party. Oh, and also because of the censorship or whatever of this being a kids' film, they can't say the word alcohol, and that's one of the rules. No animal shall drink alcohol. But in this, they say naughty juice. No animal shall drink naughty juice. Napoleon, why are you drinking naughty juice? There's some other little pigs that are like, can't you see that Napoleon's being a massive jerk?
Then why aren't you inside drinking naughty juice with him instead of talking out here with me?
This is all really funny when you remember that Napoleon, the character, is supposed to be an allegory for Stalin. Look what they did to Stalin. The other pig, Snowball, the one who is exiled from the farm, is supposed to be an allegory for Trotsky and how he was exiled out of Russia. In this adaptation, there's no old major character who gives the animals a vision for the revolution. Instead, in this, they are in the back of a slaughter van, all scared until Snowball kind of comes up with the idea of a revolution kind of on the fly.
Snowball, what can we do? We can start a rebellion.
I think that this change was a mistake. The beginning rallying with Old Major is supposed to mirror, Karl Marx and the Communist Manifesto, giving all these rules that then get twisted. In this, the animal revolution is less of comrades together we shall stick together, but lest we forget we shall never become like man. And it's more like school's out for summer, let's break the rules.
There ain't no holding us back.
In this, the role of Snowball is played by Laverne Cox. So they gender swapped Snowball. Animal Farm has gone woke. Snowball in this is basically playing this like sassy, like almost condescending, very middle of the road, dare I say Kamala Harris style. It's a Democrat, basically. Snowball's a Democrat. And I compare Snowball in this to Kamala Harris because it's very obvious that the Seth Rogen Napoleon is doing a Trump kind of thing. He exiles Snowball off the farm by calling her ideas woke and boring, and then just politely escorts her off of the farm. That's really funny. In the other one, they like chase Snowball down, but in this, it's like a polite, you can leave. The main conflict in this film is not that Napoleon is a dictator ruling through propaganda. It's now that Napoleon is a massive consumerist.
Now that is a cool car.
He loves going to the big shopping mall, he loves parties, he loves money and phones and credit cards, and he eventually befriends the main villain of the film, a much richer and more advanced farmer who wants to take the land of Animal Farm. She's played by Glenn Close in this like weird southern accent. The whole time she's like, I want that farm. It's so hot today on the prairie.
I want that land. I need that land.
But honestly, massive respect to Glenn Close. She's given us enough. I mean, she can do what she wants.
Fuck you, bitch.
Calling the character Frida Pilkington is quite interesting because in the original book, there's two farmers, Mr. Friedrich and Mr. Pilkington. In the book, their differing relationship with the farm is an allegory for the different relationships between the United Kingdom and Germany in the Soviet Union. Like reading the book, you can basically replace the words Napoleon, Friedrich and Pilkington with Stalin, Hitler and Churchill. And then in this, it's just Glenn Close with a Cybertruck. She literally drives a Cybertruck. And she has like an insane infrastructure of cow milking. So yeah, Glenn Close, farmer, tries to befriend Seth Rogen Pig, and she showers him with gifts, trying to get him to become a greedy capitalist. They have this pig in a Gucci tracksuit and a fancy car. What is this? This is just crazy. Napoleon's got a Bugatti. Look, he's driving the car as well, with his little hoofs. I understand the need for the narrative shorthand in this, instead of confusing kids with a bunch of, complex allegory. It's a very generic, greedy tycoon kind of character. A kid will see that and go, yep, that's the villain, I can tell. Look how greedy they look. But in that case, if you're going to muddy the message of the original book so much with, anti-consumerist, anti-peer pressure, why is this Animal Farm when it could have easily have just been generic farm animal film? When adapting Animal Farm, if you're not doing it exactly how it's done in the book, it very quickly just can become a series of vignettes of farm animals doing silly things and trying to run the farm themselves but failing. Like the 1950s animation does this. There's a lot of like, oh look, a sheep is doing the farming. Isn't that funny? And in this version, it kind of results in the main message of the film becoming, turns out freedom is a lot of work.
It turns out freedom's a lot of work.
I don't envy the person who has to adapt Animal Farm. At the face of it, Animal Farm is a story about farm animals, you know, it seems very childish, very Disney. This book is so dark. It's almost like George Orwell is tricking you. Look at this little fun story about farm animals. Stalin. Oh, it's got little pigs and little sheep. Trotsky. So when you're adapting this, you can either do a version that is off-putting to children, or you can do a version that sanitizes the novel to the point of farting Seth Rogen, I guess. I'm going to say a hot take here, but I just don't think that Animal Farm works well for adaptation. I think that the book reads really well. It works well on the page. Like, you're sat here reading it like, George, you cheeky little thing, I see what you did there, George. The ending of this book is iconic. It's probably the main reason why it's remembered so dearly. At the end, you have the pigs and the farmers. They're sat together, and as the other farm animals look at them, they're unable to distinguish between who is who, because the pigs have basically just become the farmers. And it gives the book this kind of dark, cyclical nature. But no, they can't have that. Like, they do a moment where the pigs and the farmers kind of merge. That's kind of scary. But of course they have to give this a happy ending. Like, they give it this kind of weird teamwork heist thing with this dam. Like, Napoleon builds a dam for power.
Did we plan this? No, this was not part of the plan.
It doesn't need to make sense. It's literally just a forced happy ending for a kid's film that completely defeats the whole purpose of the book. So again, why is this an Animal Farm film? And why did the guy who played Gollum spend like a decade and a half making this?
It has been a labour of love, to put it mildly. It's been a long time in the making this.
Everyone that I tried to speak to about this film, like, barely even knew it existed, let alone seen it. There was a lot of discourse about this film after the initial trailer had dropped. A lot of memes about it, a lot of making fun.
So you're telling me Orwell loves fart jokes?
A lot of people like myself were just baffled by it. And in researching this, I found a lot of people who were initially kind of holding out hope. Like, there's this one Reddit thread I found. It's common enough for trailers to not reflect the real tone of a film, and maybe that's what happened here. The marketing department dropped the ball. No, the trailer was pretty spot on. Like, this is what we got. This is it. This film's production goes back about 14 or 15 years. It was announced in 2012 with Andy Serkis and producer Jonathan Candish producing with their new at the time company, The Imaginarium. The Imaginarium. For some reason, that just makes me think of Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. In this article, Andy Serkis says, "We're in a proof of concept stage at the moment, designing characters and experimenting on our stage with the designs. We're keeping it fabulistic and aimed at a family audience. We're not going to handle the politics in a heavy-handed fashion. It's going to be emotionally centered in a way that I don't think has been seen before." The Imaginarium worked with a lot of different people on various projects until 2017. Imaginarium Productions and Imaginarium Studios separated into two separate companies, and then cut to 2018 with the release of Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, directed by Andy Serkis with the Imaginarium. This movie became so over budget that it eventually got sold by Warner Brothers to Netflix in a last-minute effort to recoup the cost. Moving it to streaming on Netflix also meant that Warner Brothers could avoid an inevitable theatrical box office bomb narrative being spun. A little bit embarrassing for Serkis. Along with Mowgli being sold to Netflix in 2018, Netflix also acquired the rights to Serkis's Animal Farm idea, now with Planet of the Apes director Matt Reeves involved. A lot of things happen. Andy Serkis directs Venom Let There Be Carnage in 2021, and it is announced that Andy Serkis will be working on Animal Farm next. Right now's the time. Here we go. Everyone is under the impression that this will be another motion capture production, especially with Matt Reeves involved. Until 2022, it's announced that now Animal Farm is a partnership with the Imaginarium, CineSite, and AnyVenture. Suddenly there's no mention of Netflix or Matt Reeves or any kind of motion capture. Oh well. By 2023, CineSite takes a majority stake in the Imaginarium, and this Animal Farm film as we know it finishes production around 2024. So the story that Andy Serkis says is that this film originally had a much darker tone with motion capture, but eventually they decided to go with a much more family-friendly animated style. To give the man credit, he has been saying since 2012 that he wants this to be a family-friendly film, keeping it fabulistic and aimed at a family audience.
So look, it started off life me wanting to make a performance capture driven movie with actors playing the animals on a live action set. Very quickly, we realized that it would have been a darker film. We were very interested in making this for a younger audience.
Now, with this in mind, do I think that this film is exactly what Andy Serkis envisioned himself making 14 years ago? Is this the film Andy Serkis spent so much time ruminating on? I don't think so. I hope not. Something happened here, something clicked, and the direction just went. In interviews, Andy Serkis is talking about how the message of Animal Farm has never been more relevant, and he really wants kids to watch this and to talk about the message of the film with their parents, start a conversation, and that this has always been the plan. Sure, Andy, I definitely believe you.
Young people who could then sit and watch it with their parents and their grandparents, and then maybe having a discussion. It's only become more and more relevant with social media and fake news, and also the rise of, tyrants around the world, oppressive regimes.
Old MacDonald had a farm, had a farm, had a...
If I had to guess, I would say that Andy Serkis in 2012 envisioned himself making a film similar in style to that Mowgli movie, being quite dark in tone and using motion capture. A film that is technically family friendly, yes, but not in the kind of Minions doing fart jokes family-friendly kind of way. That's two very different family-friendly styles.
We wanted to engage much more closely with the tone of the book. It's not so much a child's fairy tale. This has a reality to it.
I suspect that this sudden shift in tone sprang from, the huge budget it would take to have a motion capture of like 15 animals. That would have been very expensive. But also the fact that that original Mowgli movie was sold to Netflix last minute, and it was kind of embarrassing. I think that Andy Serkis learnt the wrong lesson from that Mowgli movie and just decided to do a studio-pleasing farm animal movie for babies. It's so funny because he's making this movie, right? This movie, whilst also lamenting about how sacred Orwell is and how important it is in today's climate. Like, you can't have both, Andy. You can't pat yourself on the back for adapting Orwell in today's climate when your adaptation, look at it. That being said, I don't want you guys to come away from this video feeling like Andy Serkis and co decided to adapt Orwell into slop for profit, because I really don't think that there's any profit in this. Except for the voice actors, obviously. Like Glenn Close probably, refurbished her kitchen with the money from this film. Honestly, good for you, Glenn Close. Good for you. I've noticed with the interviews for this film, it's almost always Andy Serkis by himself. It seems like none of the voice actors want to be associated with this, except for Kathleen Turner, who is there. She's there. I don't know what she's thinking, but she's there.
Ms. Turner, Benjamin has always been one of my favorites.
Mine too.
Andy Serkis has been quite politically outspoken in the promotion of this film, even going as far as going to the New York premiere of the film wearing a MAGA-style hat that says, "Make Animal Farm fiction again." It was never fiction, Andy. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of Animal Farm. It was like a mirroring of the Soviet Union. It was an allegory for things that were happening at the time. And put the pig down, by the way. Yeah, in the photos for this premiere, they're just parading around this little baby pig. It really doesn't sit right with me, and I feel like it goes against the whole message of the film. Like, imagine if you went to the Ratatouille premiere and you just bought a rat in a cage. Like, yeah, look at this fucking rat. From the pig's perspective in this photo right now, Andy Serkis is like a supervillain. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Andy Serkis, is a person who gives into the meme a little bit too much. Like, the moment I knew I had to make this video is when I saw the infamous John Pork video. Jean Pork. that infamous John Pork video. He's like pretending to get a call from John Pork. You know, the brain rot meme, John Pork.
Hi there, Andy Serkis here, and oh, excuse me, it's my phone. It's John Pork. Sorry, I've just got to take this. Hello, John.
This is like a humiliation ritual. And is this kind of humiliation ritual gonna get people to go and watch the film? I really don't think it is, Andy. It just seems like a lot, you know, for a film that no one is going to see. No joke, it took me like a full day to figure out a way to watch this film. It was actually embarrassing. I searched so hard for this film. I couldn't find this film anywhere, and you know why? Here's a twist. The only way really to watch this film is through Angel Studios, a company who purchased the distribution rights and whose streaming service is Giving Cult. The basic plan is $18 monthly. They call their subscribers guild members, and then guild members get to decide what is actually made on the platform. They ask questions like, does this project amplify light? In a world full of Hollywood slop and smut, it's an absolute honor to support uplifting, meaningful, and excellently done media. Thank you, Stacy. Who the hell is Stacy? It just says Stacy. That's all it says. Why is this movie only available on this weird website? Angel Studios used to be called VidAngel. It's a service in which people would buy versions of a film with all the naughty bits cut out of it. Like all the profanity, all the non-Christian bits, basically. All the bits that didn't amplify light, basically. But then that company got massively sued by Disney, so now they are Angel Studios. Everything produced and purchased by Angel Studios has this weird glaze about it. It's very much like you're watching the church approved version of this film. This movie has good messaging and patriotic views of America. It's very telling that this Animal Farm adaptation got watered down in its messaging so much that a weird church-style patriotic American streaming service decided to purchase it, not realizing that Animal Farm itself is ideologically kind of the opposite of what they usually have on their streaming service, you know? George Orwell isn't exactly a favourite of the Christian moralists. Angel Studios deciding to put Animal Farm on their platform was met with a lot of backlash from their usual supporters. I could go into it, it's quite a long tangent. I mean, everything to do with Angel Studios could be its own video. I was looking a bit into it and it's honestly quite crazy. I mean, at the end of all this, I'm just thinking, like, oh, this Animal Farm movie is on this weird, obscure website and no one's gonna watch it. And then I think, Animal Farm's on this weird, obscure website and no one's gonna watch it. That's good. Children aren't gonna watch this. Okay, going back to Andy Serkis. I do think that Andy Serkis is a good guy with good intentions. I don't think that this film is the film that Andy Serkis envisioned himself making in 2012. But by 2025, this is a man who is trying to rationalize poor decisions. There's this one interview where someone asks Andy about the initial reaction that the trailer got, and he just completely ignores the question and just waxes philosophical about George Orwell for like 5 minutes.
How does it feel when just a first look generates that kind of reaction?
Well, first of all, I don't mind that because, and Orwell certainly wouldn't have minded it. He was, as a writer, was very against a lot of things, and one of the things that he was mainly aiming his anger at was authoritarianism. But also, when he wrote Animal Farm, he was really interested in preserving innocence. And that's really was the key to what was the thing of our journey with this.
This man obviously understands George Orwell. He obviously understands what he's talking about when it comes to the book. But that only makes his cognitive dissonance about the whole thing even more confusing. Like, how can you be talking about George Orwell in this way and then go and make that film? And I don't know, maybe this is all just cope. And deep down, Andy Serkis knows that this film is bad, but he has to sell it anyway. Andy Serkis, with all due respect to him, is what I call a gadget filmmaker. Like, he's been at the forefront of technical innovation when it comes to motion capture for a very long time. And it gets to a point where the technological advancement and startup production companies kind of overtakes the storytelling of a film. When this all began, Andy Serkis is immediately talking about the motion capture capabilities and puppeteering of this film before any idea of the story comes about. It's like putting the cart before the horse. Or is it putting the horse before the cart? mean, motion capture films alone have very similar stories of long development periods from established people in the industry like Andy Serkis or Peter Jackson or Robert Zemeckis. It's kind of a common thing for established people in the industry to have their passion projects, which spend years in development. In the case of Animal Farm, Andy Serkis in 2012 is describing this dark, gritty motion capture, and I want to see that. I'm intrigued to see that. Sure, if it was dark, it wouldn't attract like 7-year-olds to watching it, but I really think if you're trying to attract 7-year-olds to your work, adapting Orwell isn't really a great place to start. It seems like this film was driven by Andy Serkis's personal desire to make a film with his studio, rather than the film itself having a need to exist. It doesn't seem that he had a new story to tell. And honestly, I feel similar about the Andy Serkis directed Hunt for Gollum movie that's supposed to be coming out. Like, this doesn't need to exist. No one is clamouring for it to be made. Andy Serkis just kind of wants to make it. He just fancies having another go at it. I mean, all respect to him. Maybe directing a Gollum movie is what Andy Serkis is supposed to do. Maybe it's a safer road than adapting Orwell for children. Honestly, I think that Andy Serkis is quite lucky, because I feel like if this film had wider distribution and it wasn't just on Angel Studios, say it was on Netflix, everyone would be making fun of him and his career would be in jeopardy, because it's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? But because no one's seen it, no one really cares. And honestly, the whole promo for this film has just been like, oh yeah, I have a new Animal Farm movie out, but guys, I'm going to be doing Gollum soon. Can't wait for that. Stay tuned for that. Yeah, this man was on Stephen Colbert and it took him like a minute and a half before he was doing the Gollum impression.
We've done it! We've given it all, precious!
I mean, he obviously loves playing Gollum and he loves being the Gollum guy, and I mean, he's very good at it. And also, conveniently, he just announced a new memoir. It's very Gollum coded. What's it called? My Precious.
His memoir? What's it mean, precious? His memoir?
I don't know. I think I'm just coming to terms with the fact that I have a personal ick of actors who can't move on from a role from 20 years ago. Anyone who watched my video on Tom Felton knows what I'm talking about. I don't know. I don't condone my feelings. I think that Andy Serkis is a nice guy. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood because Doctor Who literally got cancelled yesterday. Okay, class. What did we learn today? Don't adapt George Orwell for children. Just don't do it. Now, don't go sending any hate to Andy Serkis. I think that he's a nice guy. I just think that this is a bit of an unfortunate situation. One man's passion project turned sour. Okay, thank you for watching. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. If you don't subscribe to the channel, I'm going to call Andy Serkis and he's going to adapt your life story into a horrible movie. Bye. See you later.